Hey guys, thanks for joining us for another part of our virtual series on turkey hunting. We've been getting a bunch of questions about what to do after the harvest, and I'm going to walk you through how to get your beard and your spurs, cut your fan off to preserve it for a trophy, and then we're going to go into how to actually dress the bird, and then later on we're going to actually cut up the meat, and I'll show you kind of how I get out some of the unwanted parts of the breast and prep the meat for the actual cooking. All right, first thing we're gonna do, I've seen people pull these beards and you can probably do that, but I'm always nervous. I'm gonna pull some hairs loose, but you can get down to where this meets the skin and just cut that off. So I always cut more than enough, and then I can come back and trim off whatever meat gets attached to that. So that's real easy, first step. I'll come back here. There's a bunch of different ways of doing this as well. I've seen people try to cut the spurs with different things, or the legs right here, but at least starting, you can hit this joint, kind of get on around, break that loose. So now there's just skin holding it, and you'll be able to just cut it with a knife. Second one, same thing. Get that outside. Break it loose. Just continue to get in the skin. So we're going to set that aside for now, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to salt the ends. So now we're going to move on to our fan, and this is something that a lot of people, when they kill a turkey, they want to display it. So again, I'm always being a little conservative, but you can see the way this is gonna break loose. So I'm gonna make that cut right across there. And I'm gonna go ahead and add plenty of feathers to make that pretty, so you can kind of see what you're gonna have to cut. But once you start cutting, it'll be easier. And this is not, there's no bone or anything back there. So just that simple. There's gonna be a few feathers kind of loose. And the way that most people are gonna do this cardboard like we're using just to keep the table clean will work nice, but you can get this spread out like this, and then actually you can use paper clips or money clips or something to be able to spread this out. That way when you salt it, salt down here, trim a little bit more of this meat off, but once you get some borax or salt on this, it'll dry out, and like I said, you can spread it out, and when it dries like that, then you'll have a nice fan for your display. So we'll set that aside. Moving on to the good part. So first things first, you can see this breastbone. A lot of people pluck feathers off. I don't see that to be necessary. Make a little cut here. So now I've got the skin laid back, and I'm just gonna start pulling. You can see we're already exposing our breast meat. Same thing this side. And we know we're gonna get these legs later too, so you can go ahead and pull all that skin kind of down out of your way. One thing I like to do, and I've seen people, you can definitely do it without doing it, but this is the crawl of the turkey. This is the food storage sack, and it kind of gets in the way when you're up here on the first part of this breast. So I like to make a few cuts and pull this out and just get it completely out of my way. So you see how I've left that cavity, and there's nothing there but the actual breast meat. What I'm doing now, I'm gonna make that initial cut, and then I'm just gonna start filleting this breast off this breastbone. Just stay real close to the bone, just to make sure you're not leaving any meat. Once you get down to the sides, you can kind of break that loose. Now I've got it coming. You can just work it down towards the front. Might have to pull a little bit of skin. That's got it. So that right there is nothing but kind of fat and sinew, so I'm just going to cut that off. There I am. One complete breast. Real quickly, I'll run through the other side, and then we're going to move on to the legs. Same thing, I got it kind of working this way. Follow that knife right along that bone. There's the other breast, nice and clean. Dio made a good shot. No pellets in the breast. All right, we're gonna move on to the thighs. So what I like to do is I've got this skin pulled down from here. There's no reason to save this. This is gonna be waste anyway. So just make this cut, get down to where you're at the thighs, and then you can start pulling the skin from around it. So I've got it to there, and that's really, you know, there's no meat down here, so you can pretty much cut that. And then this is going to be real simple right here. So there's a joint right here where the leg connects to the body. You can just make you a couple cuts like this. You can break that over so you can see where that joint is. We're just going to run our knife right alongside that. Again, just pulling that skin off. And there you have his right thigh. Then we're just going to, obviously we're going to clean this up when we're done, but you can always help if you're having trouble pulling the skin. You can help it along with your knife just by kind of almost like you would if you were skinning a deer, just detaching that skin from the meat there. Same thing as before. Get a little leverage, make this cut. Break it open. There you go. Now you can see what we're working with. We've got our stuff for our trophy display, and we got our meat over here. I will tell you, you can take and put these ends in salt or borax, put a fan on them. Moisture is really what's going to cause any kind of rotting and bacteria to form on this stuff. So you want to make sure that this stuff stays in a well ventilated area. Don't have to be in a refrigerator, but you need to put a fan on it probably, and make sure you get borax or salt on all these pieces to start pulling this moisture out of it. So we're gonna kind of reposition here, get our cutting table out. I will show you how I prep the actual meat for deep frying or cooking it in a skillet, or even making like poppers to put on the grill. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, we've got our turkey dressed, and I just got done cleaning this up. So I got all the little pin feathers and things like that off of it. And now I'm gonna actually get this breast chopped up and preparing it for the way I like to cook it. So I'm gonna start with this small knife, and then I'll probably move on to a little bit bigger knife to make the actual slices for the meat. But this little piece here kind of sets separate. You can see how it's already kind of coming off. And it does have, if you look down the middle of it, it's got a little bit of what would turn into gristle if you don't cut it out. Set that aside. You can see where I'm staying right up against that to make sure I'm not wasting any meat. And that's really the same theory that's going to be used in preparing this whole breast. It's just getting those little seams and the stuff that's going to turn tough when you cook it out of your breast. And I think that's probably the most important thing. I hear a lot of people talk about wild game or turkeys in general, and they talk about it being tough or something, and it's normally because they're trying to cook stuff like this. And then while I've got that there, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in a slice about what I would when I'm gonna batter it and fry it. So set that aside. And then first thing on the big part, you can see this sinew and this fat that's around the edge. You see how I'm just cutting that, how it's coming right off. Same thing here. And a lot of this really depends on how you're gonna cook it. For frying it, which is the way I prefer it, or one of my favorite ways of cooking it, I use it a lot of ways, but for frying it, you really need to try to get all this little stuff off and get you good solid chunks of meat, and it's gonna stay real tender and moist. Now there is one, you can see that right here running this way on this breast, and we can make a cut in, trim this off. And we'll work around that here in just a minute. We could go ahead and make a cut like this. All right. So we've got this one pretty clean. You can see how good that meat looks. All right, and then the grain of the meat runs this way, and we're gonna cut it across grain. And this is where it just comes down to kind of how you're gonna cook it. But I always cut cross grain, and I use some pretty small chunks. So that's kind of an end piece, but half. And you can continue all the way down the breast and through both breasts. You can do this before you freeze it and freeze it in bags like this, or you can freeze it and then do this right before you prep. But you can see those pretty little strips, and this is something that you could batter in flour and put in grease, cook them in a skillet, or you could marinate them and grill them, or wrap them in bacon. A lot of people do. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully this answers a bunch of the questions about what to do with your turkey after your harvest. Good luck this season.